Yeah, welcome back to the channel. BQuanchi here, doing something a little bit different today. Going back to doing tier maker, tier list videos, but gonna do a couple focus on Balatro. So, been loving the game. I have streamed it a couple times, and this VODs on the YouTube channel. So there's gonna be links in the description if you want to check those out and all that. So, doing the rank of all the Jokers are 150 Jokers, and I'm not like an expert with Balatro. There's people who do crazy builds. I've been learning the game. I think the furthest I got was anti 14, all that, but very familiar with the game and the Jokers and all that. So I put again a link in the description if you want to see my VODs, and I'll eventually have a playlist of a bunch of these ranking videos. I'll talk about the game and stuff like that, kind of like based on my knowledge, although a lot of it's learning from others and all that. And with my tier making, I do just like to just slap them onto the tier levels. I don't do like really meticulous stuff like having left to right rankings and all that. So having a little cheat sheet to kind of remind myself of these Jokers and abilities. So let's start off with the main one, the main Joker. This one, I'm going to give it a D. It's just a 4 mult, and it's a very small bonus. It is kind of helpful because it's a 4 mult. No questions asked. It's kind of like easy to activate, so it's convenient to slap in there. But there's much better Jokers, so it's not the worst, but it's definitely not the most beneficial Jokers. And next we have, I say that the Sin ones, the ones that are based on suits that are simple. They are +3 for each scoring suit: diamonds, hearts, spades, clubs. I'm gonna give all these C's, because they're also kind of common as well, and easy to activate, like if you're leaning towards certain suits, like flushes, or if you have ways to reactivate cards like red seals and hanging chat or something like that. I'll probably talk about all the terms, so not to get explain every detail, the mechanic of the game, but there's a way you can take a little bit of advantage of these just to get a little extra mult, depending how you deck build and other synergies with other Jokers and all that. And then we have these other Jokers that are based on playing hands. The 3-prong hats give you 12 mult, and then the 2-prong gives you chips. Well, it depends on the card. Some they think it's different based on the Joker in hands, but they're like the pair, 2-pair, 3 of a kind, all that. I'm going to give them all a D. They are helpful. I do think they're good for early in your run. Especially if you're like leaning towards other hands and all that. It doesn't depend on the deck. Like the plasma deck, it might be good to have a good a bonus with chips versus mult. The nice thing is that it doesn't have to be your played hand. For example, the 2-pair that Joker activates if you play like if it's 1-pair, it works with 2-pair, it works with full house. Or if you have deck management, manipulation, have a flush, it happens to have a pair in it. So as long as it's a pair in a hand, it doesn't have to be the actual played hand. You get a bonus. And other Jokers work that way too. So they're kind of nice, but they're not Jokers I really like to keep in my slots for a long time. But yeah, and again, also let me know in the comments like what Jokers you see, if you agree or disagree. But this is going to be a long tier list to get started. And with this half Joker, I'm gonna have to give it an F. It's kind of cool, but it just gives you 20 mult for playing 3 cards or less. So a lot of times I gotta play flashes, or it just kind of depends. Like if you have your deck leaning in a way that you can play like high card to get a lot of bonuses and stuff like that. But I feel like 20 mult is kind of a low benefit in comparison to other Jokers and all that. So it was a little bit better, especially like I had played runs where high card was my thing that could have been useful, but 20 mult compared to other Jokers that have much bigger advantages, I have to give that an F. And then the stencil Joker gives you 1 times mult for each Joker slot that you have open. Pretty good. I really like the times multiplier. I would give this a C. I feel like it gets, especially if you pick up more Jokers, then it becomes a little less useful. And if you play game, or not know, that with times multiplier, you always want to keep those Joker in the right. So you kind of, as I play the game, you kind of learn more about Joker placement and arrangement and stuff like that too. And if you have like bonuses like extra Joker slots, depending on like the, I think it's a black deck. I'm going to do a video based on decks as well, but there's another way you can have more Joker slots that open. But this kind of loses its very quickly. So that's why I'm going to give it a C. I do like the times multiplier, but it can get outdated depending on how your build and run is. And next, I just want to call it again Four Fingers. So this is pretty cool in that you can make a flush or straight with only 4 cards. So it makes it a little bit easier to play them. And if you happen to have something like a stone card, you go get some bonus chips that way. It's one of those one that does come a little outdated. I actually rarely use it. With some of the other ones that kind of make a good like utility Joker. I'm gonna give it a C, just because it can be useful, even though I rarely pick it up. But yeah, I think that's a good spot for it. And then next we have the Mime. This is definitely A tier for me, especially if it have really good synergy. With what this does is it retriggers cards held in your hand, and we have stuff like reserve parking, which you get a lot more money. If you have steel cards, you can reactivate the steel cards. If you have Baron, I really know that's going to come up later in this video, but it doubles up with Baron and all that, so it can really escalate your hand quickly. I've seen a lot of crazy builds and high scoring runs that rely on the Mime, so it is pretty neat. It definitely is A tier for me. And then the credit card. This allows you to go under $20 in the shop, which, you know, with Balatro, if you play, you know that each round you can spend money in the shop to get use consumables, you know, whether it be tarot cards, getting some Jokers or Planet cards and all that. Some people kind of knock it because it's like, oh, you don't want to go into deck, and then you lose your chance to get interest or more money per round. It is kind of nice to get a good setup, because if you can get some good earning Jokers right away because of this, then it kind of like makes up for itself. It does get outdated, like once you have something good, you kind of like it feels like you use it in a pinch where you want to get like a good set of Jokers and stuff like that first, and then when you have a good way to earn a lot more money, then get rid of it. So I put it a D because it's not completely useless. But I don't see it being a great benefit. It does have a pretty cool design. I'm not basing too much on design, but it's pretty neat. And then we have the Ceremonial Dagger. This one is pretty fun. I know there's even a challenge in the game. They have also, besides just the regular Balatro runs, that you have the challenges in this one where you have it in its pen, because what happens is that each round it destroys a Joker, or when the blind is selected, it destroys a Joker, but doubles its value and the sell value, that is, and adds it to the Molt. Which kind of neat. I like it in regular Balatro because you can move it around, so you can make sure, like, hey, I don't want to destroy a Joker, or if you're having to get like a boost pack, you know, like that Joker somehow got like a Joker's not going to want to use it, instead of selling it, you can sacrifice it. I'm going to give it a C. I kind of wish it was more of a maybe a Molt growth versus times Molt, not versus additional Molt. So since I have these ones and C, I would say it's there too. It can have some very fun moments, but I feel like I go for other Jokers as well. So that's a cool one. And then Banner. Maybe because I don't give it too much of a chance, I'm going to give it a D. And what it does is give you 30 chips for each discard. And sometimes you really want to play discards, so you kind of like pull the cards you want, depending on like, oh, I want cards with certain enhancements, like blue stamps or gold cards and stuff like that. So sometimes you're really using your discards to take advantage of your deck and what you have in it. And I know 30 chips for each discard. I think with a plasma deck it can be helpful too. And if you got like other jokers that can synergize, or we've got vouchers that add more discards or your deck. I can see the advantage, but I pretty much never use it because I discard a lot with my playing habits. So it is kind of neat, but it is kind of situational. And then the Mystic Summit. This one I also have to give it a D. It's just 15 mult, and you have to use all your discard. These discards have to be 0. So it's more like, oh, it's a nice 15 mult and all that. So it's got a nice reliable one in the sense that you can usually have it activated. You can meet the condition of 0 discards easily, but other cards have other bonuses as well. Then we have the Stone card. I'm going to give this an F. I don't like playing with stone cards that often. It can just be more of my playing habits. I'll say maybe like Plasma Deck, it might be helpful. But we get to a point where you get playing like hard card. You have to level up really well, so you just throw in a bunch of stone cards, because this one creates a stone card and adds to your deck. Which can be annoying, because I find, and I think a lot of people I see play online, like really shrinking down your deck so you draw what you want versus having too many cards and too many unwanted cards. So I think because it also adds more to your deck, that can be kind of more of a headache than anything else, and all that. So I just don't play stone cards too often. So I'm going to give that an F. And then we have the loyalty cards. They get it 4 times every 6 hands played. This one, I'm gonna get a C because it's a really good mult. I don't know, maybe kind of deserve a little higher spot. I just hate keeping track of that playing hands, and sometimes, you know, it doesn't trigger when you really need it, or I think I'm kind of just bad at keeping track of it. So it is a really good mult. I would say David, keep it on the right side of your Joker, since times 4 mult is nothing to gawk at and all that. But it's like I don't like keeping track of it as much. I think there's better things that can give you more oomph in your runs and all that. So maybe a little harsh, but I'm giving that a C. And then 8 Ball. This has a 1 in 4 chance to create a tarot card for every 8 you play. This might be harsh, but I'm gonna give that an F. Just because I like to focus a lot on face cards. You can see a lot of Balatro players like to play a lot, build a decks towards face cards. Sometimes they may rely on this card as well. It is chance based, being 1 in 4, and then it creates a random tarot card. So I think just got the randomness and all that. It's nothing I really liked, really grab for. And then we have the misprint. I like this card's design. Just kind of missed the theme of the Joker. It can give you a 0 to 23 mult. It's completely random. Sometimes I have like a good boost with it. Sometimes I get that 0 and it's kind of heartbreaking as well. I'm gonna give that a C. Maybe if it was a higher mult, that might make it a little more cooler. Sometimes if I see it in my early run, I'll grab it, and it's a good point generator, good score booster in the beginning. So it can come in handy a lot, so I may grab that often, but nothing I really keep in my Joker very long term, especially going into Endless and all that. And then we have Dusk. This triggers all cards in hand in the final round. So the thing about this is that means you have to play a lot of hands. Hands can also mean money, because when you end the round with more hands, you have money from that. So I'm gonna give this a C. I get the other one with like discards and stuff like that, a little lower ranking, because it's just come in handy. Because if you like have other Jokers like, hey, playing those cards will get you money, like playing lucky cards or other stuff. I have to remind myself as I go through this video. So I think having the re-trigger is a little bit helpful, especially when you're in the pinch and all that. So I'm gonna give that one a C. And then we have the Raised Fist. What it does is it doubles the rank of your lowest card in your held hand, and doubles out, and then makes it your mult. So it adds a little mult. It is kind of nice, but I think it can add up to 22 which I don't think will happen very often because, you know, aces and stuff like that. Or the highest rank, and there's so many cards out there too. There's sometimes like it's like I have a 2 or 3 just because I want to play like a flush, and that's like discards or whatever. So sometimes it gives me very little, sometimes it's helpful. I'm gonna give it a D. I almost feel like C, but I think sometimes it barely gives me any boost, depending on how my cards lay and all that. So I'm gonna give that a D. And we have this one, the what's it called, Chaos the Clown, which I think it's based off Krusty the Clown from The Simpsons. Gives you 1 free reroll. It is nice because rerolls save you money. I think a lot of players just like buy it just for the reroll and sell it, stuff like that, to get a quick reroll. Or if you have room, if you can get this as a negative, then so that way it doesn't take up a slot, then that's really awesome. It is very useful in. So I'm looking at the B tier. I haven't had anything to B yet, but I'm gonna give this a C. It is very helpful, but I feel like it doesn't really like sway your Joker runs to be all dependent on it. So next we have Fibonacci. This could be 8 molts for certain cards. It's kind of like hard to keep track of. I have to keep looking at because these are the similar cards that we're going to get to. But it's Ace 2, 3, 5, and 8. Into 8 molts. I'm going to give this a D because this is kind of hard to keep track of. And if you're playing a low straight, Ace to 5, then it comes very handy, especially if you have things to re-trigger those cards. Again, it's just like a it's 8 molt per card played, a scoring card. So I think it's it said played, so I think it has to be a scoring card, not like if you play like 2 pair or pair and high card and the other ones won't count. So it's kind of helpful, but not so much. And then this one, Steel Joker, give you times 0.2 molt for each steel card in your full deck. I feel like I don't rely on this very much. Steel Joker cards are really good because they give you a lot of molt. I've seen a lot of people play like either like transform the jokes to the cards into all gold or eventually to all steel. So even though I don't have too much experience with this one, I just, for my luck, it doesn't come up too often. I'm gonna have to give this a B. That's gonna be the first B. Just because that growth of times molt and steel cards are very helpful and beneficial. So I will say that's a good B. It just like takes work to get there, but it does pay off when you do. And then Scary Face. There's other face cards, other jokers that synergize with face. So I do lean on playing face cards as well. This gives 30 chips. I'm gonna have to give it a C with the other ones. Like I'm sure with the plasma deck, because that one has that balancing mechanic and all that. So I think that's helpful, especially if you can get them re-triggered and all that. So yeah, that's I think that's a good spot for it. And then we have I like this one, the Abstract Joker. It's really cool. It is +3 molt for each Joker, 3 molt for each Joker. Which gives you like a consistent 15 to fill all your Joker slots, but if you get negatives, then that kind of gets a little bit better. But since it's just molt, I'm going to have to give it a C. I do grab that one often when I see it early on. So I do find that very helpful. And next we have the delayed gratification. $2 for each discard if no discards are used. I'm going to give that an F. It could be a good source of money, but I'm always constantly using discards. And then I think if you got something, I know it's coming up later, but the burglar, that gives you 0 discard as well. I don't think that would activate like if you had 0 discard because you have 0. Because I think you have to have some. Well, it gives you per discard. I'm dumb. Yeah, you have to have some discard. So depending deck, yeah. And then hack. Re-triggers 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm gonna have to give that an F. This because those cards, because we know with Balatro, each card, the lower the card, the less rank, the less chips it gives you when scored. So unless you had like a lot of enhancements. If you had a lot of enhanced low rank cards, I can see this being helpful, especially with re-triggers. I just typically don't play that. So it can have some fun builds. I just don't like going that direction. Usually I go for like the high rank cards, especially face cards, and trying to have a lower. There's some decks that you have to rely on lower rank cards, so it can be useful. I don't use it, so I don't like it. And then we have another face one, Pareidolia. And this is like based off the term where you see faces in like random things and stuff like that. So kind of a fun history with it. All cards are considered face cards. It is cool because it can synergize its other face cards, jokers, that can really help. This is me being stupid. I'm gonna put it to C. It's cool enhancement. It has cool synergy depending on it. Oh, it's also with photograph, which is gonna be later. I like that Joker a lot too. Not to spoil, but there's that one boss blind that makes all face cards debuff, and then I didn't think about selling this. So I was like, oh, I'm fucked. But yeah, if you get it in that blind, sell Jokers, because if you hit a wall with that, that can be very devastating. But yeah, you can always sell that to deactivate that. Then we have Rose Michelle. This I'm gonna put a B. Even though it doesn't have too much oomph to it. It's 50 mult, which is nice and good and consistent. But why it scores high on this ranking than these other similar Jokers in terms of what they give you, like mult, is that once it expires, you can get the it's Cabernish. I know I don't remember the names, but which is a lot better Joker, which I really, really love. So I think just because of fun of like looking for it and hoping that it expires. You can use Oops All Sixes, which also later to increase the chances, but once it expires, it unlocks a Joker I really, really like. So that's why it's in a B. And then these two, Even Steven and Odd Todd, it's gives you +4, so it kind of works similar to these suit Jokers that give you mult per suit. It's just cards. And it's helpful, but I'm going to drop it in C with them. Just because I think with aces, that's really cool too. Although Even Steven gives you mult and Odd Todd gives you chips. So it kind of depends. They're kind of nice, but it just kind of, if I can take advantage of them, I grab them. But a lot of times I just move on to something else. And same thing with Scholar. I do like it because it gives you chips and mult for aces, and if you have ways to re-trigger them, they're really good. Aces are really good, but I'm still going to give that a C. And I think that feels right. Business card. I also want to mention with my play habits, I'm very bad at taking advantage of money generators and all that. This one is you get, for each played face card, you get a 1 in 2 chance to get $2. So it's a little bit of money, but if you're playing like 4 of a kind, 5 of a kind, full houses, and we have really good build, your decks be mostly face cards, I'm gonna give it a B. I think that's a good spot for it, even though I don't use it too much. We'll give it that. And then Supernova. This gives you plus mult for number of times of poker hands, which is pretty cool. I'm also going to give this a B, because I think it's a lot better than a lot of these cards on C in terms of mult. I do like more times mult, but again, you're going to need mults to add up anyways. Usually with planet cards and all that, I can kind of help build it up. But sometimes if you're in that space where you're just playing like the same hand every time, the same scoring hand every time, this can get up to like 50 or more mult. Inconsistent because besides just like it's based off your played hand, it does kind of be bummer when like, oh, I had to play different scoring hand, like, oh, I had to play 2 pair or all that, or I can't play my flush, or I have to play something to get more cards in my hand. So it's not always perfect, but I think it can build really good and all that. So that's why I think it deserves a B. It didn't ride the bus. This gives you +1 mult per consecutive card hand played without a score and base. I don't think it resets. I'm not too familiar. I play that there's a challenge based off it. I'm gonna give it a D. I think it'd be very useful and all that, but I just because I always like to play face cards, and that's like you can't synergize with that, so I'm gonna give that a D. Space Joker, it kind of acts like a free planet card. It gives you 1 in 4 chance to upgrade your played poker hand. So like if you really want to jack up your high card or pair, you need to kind of like play through them. And 1 in 4 is based off luck. If you have like oops all sixes, that can help with it. I'm gonna give it a B just because it can really pay off, but luck base as well. And then we have the egg. Earns 3 value at the end of the round, so you can sell it for later. There are some jokers, and I'm going to get to it. I think Swashbuckler, if I'm remembering, does add molt per value, but also there's the Tempest, I believe. Tempest, the tarot card that gives you more money based off your sell value. So this one, if you had this one as a negative, oh, that will be helpful just to have this egg hanging around. Just for Tempest, just to like be boosted. So I'm gonna give it a B. I actually don't use it too often, but it can be beneficial. I think if you have a negative egg, go for it, keep it. I love it, let it grow. But I don't use it too often. But I definitely see others take advantage of its value when played it right. Burglar. I'm gonna give this an A because I see people do crazy stuff. I had a moment like when I was in my Ante-14, I actually had Blueprint and Brainstorm, but I forgot to arrange my Joker because I could use the advantage of getting extra hands, because you get 3 extra hands, but you lose all discards. So I probably could have gone further, just because my build was so good. I just barely ended, and all that. And a good handy thing with the Burglar is that if you have to have the boss blind the needle that only plays 1 hand, it does still add 3 hands. So if you, I think it's needle, like thread the needle. So that does actually add hands to that boss blinds, which kind of makes it a little bit more easier. It almost cancels out that specific boss blind. So good to know. And then next we have Blackboard. Times 3 molt, but all the cards in your hand has to be either spades or clubs. So you have to have only black cards in your hand. 3 molt is really good. I think just because it does take some trouble and effort, I'm gonna give it a B. Once you have your deck built, it is really good and consistent. I almost feel like it deserves an A. It's a really good high B. Yeah, so 3 times molt is really good, and the conditions aren't too terrible to meet, especially if you go in that direction. So you have to kind of like lean that direction to really grab it. Other times it can be useless if you just have like a bunch of red cards as well that just keep showing up. And Runner. You have to play straights and you get 15 chips each time, so it's a growing Joker, a growing value. Although I'm going to give it an F. That might be controversial, but it's chips. It can be helpful, but I feel like a lot of times with my deck manipulation, I don't lean on straights too often, so I rarely use those. All that, so I'm going to give that an F. Then the gelato, the ice cream. 100 chips for every hand, but it goes down by 5 chips each hand. I'm gonna give it a B. I'm being a little generous with some of these cards because I feel like, oh, it's gonna waste away eventually. Not gonna have much value for it. But it is like, if you see it, I grab it a pinch, and it can be a good score booster even though the value kind of dies down. So I think that's how a good way to look at it too, is that if you just need a good boost, especially if you're starting your run and want to play less hands, earn more money. Yeah, it's a good initial boost with chips, so I feel that's fair to give it a B. Now, DNA, your first played hand is only 1 card. You add a copy to the deck. I'm going to give this an A because I use this a few times just kind of with my luck when it shows up, but it can be very handy, especially if you have like good enhanced cards that you want copies of quick. Especially if you have Brainstorm and Blueprint, you can double, even triple it up. So it's really good for deck manipulation, even though it is adding cards. You can use other ways to get rid of the other cards too. So it's kind of like swinging your deck a certain way, especially since it's a specific card. It is kind of a hassle sometimes. Like if you have like burglar and you can't discard, so you have to rely on what shows up in your first hand is what you get. So yeah, I think it deserves an A. And then splash. This is nice that every card you play is scoring. So it's a nice in a pinch. I think if you are experienced with Balatro and have your deck how you like it, every hand is going to be pretty much the way you want it. So it kind of depends. Like if you try and like use high card hands to like use as a discard, it's nice to kind of like use the other cards to get some bonuses. But I'm gonna give it a C, mostly because I feel like it's not as helpful, but it can be. So I'm gonna give that a C. The next blue Joker. It is based on chips. The more cards you have in your deck, the more chips you get. I'm gonna give it that with gelato. It is a nice boost. I think I'm almost contradicting myself in some areas, but especially I find it gets a little useless. Like if you want to like really shrink down your deck so you don't have all the cards you don't want. It's a good deck score, depending on the situation, but especially with your discards, and that means it gets lower each throughout the round as you're discarding cards and all that. But it can be a little helpful in a pinch. And then we have the Sixth Sense. So if you play a single 6, your played hand, you get a spectral card. I actually don't use this very often. I think just because with the runs I've been playing, it doesn't show up as much. It is nice that you can use it to get rid of 6s, and then you can kind of like maybe up in booster packs or whatever manipulation, get more 6s. Especially, I'm gonna give it a B, even though I haven't took advantage of this one, just because it can be very helpful to get spectral cards in your consumables, because that's a thing. It creates it and puts in your consumables. And then if you have like other things, you can make copies of that or use that whenever you want, because when you get spectrals and booster packs, you have to use in the hand displayed, versus if it's in your consumables, you can use it whenever you like, as long as it's a hand, whether it be in a booster pack or displaying through a round. So I think that's a B, even though I have lack of experience with it. And then Constellation. And 1.1 mold for every planet card you use. I had some fun runs with that. It is a slow growing molt, a times molt, but I think it deserves a B, because you can get to a point that it like really gets good with it. So yeah, I'm kind of on the speed runs is some of these, not to go too long. Hiker adds 5 ships for each card played. As you shrink down your deck and have like ways to replay them, it can be kind of nice, like with the hanging Chad, which is eventually going to be in the video. I'm going to give it a C. I'll give it a C. It is nice, but a lot of times I don't take advantage of it and all that. And then we have Faceless Joker. Oh, $5 for every 3. It is a good income generator. I'm gonna give it a C. I think if you have blueprints or brainstorm to copy it, you get more bang for your buck. But with 3 cards required to discard, it can be a little iffy. And if you have a deck that like all face cards and all that, if you get to that point, it can be really easy to take advantage of that. But I'm gonna give it a C. And then for Green Joker, I did like it, but it just gives you 1 mold for each hand played, but -1 for each discard. It could be. I'm gonna give it an F. That might be a little harsh. Like if you have like reason not to discard, like if you had a burglar and stuff like that, you keep playing hands, but it's a small bonus for keeping track of only playing hands. It can be a bit annoying. Superposition. You get a tarot card for every straight you play that contains an ace. It is nice, but I don't like to use it. I'm going to give that an F. tarot cards are extremely important and does help out a lot. But you can have things like purple seals or just in the shop and stuff like that, or even there's another joker that is more reliable for getting tarot cards. So yeah, that's gonna have to be an F. And then to-do list, that's gonna be an F for me as well. It can give you money. It's just annoying that it's a random poker hand that changes each round. Especially if you have a deck built a certain way, like maybe playing straight is going to be extremely hard, or you're not really able to play four of a kind or straight flush. I think that shows up. I'm not sure if it counts like if you unlock the special hands like five of a kind or flush five or flush houses. Is that that's a joker? If you play those card hands and they kind of unlock. But yeah, I don't like it. $4 is good for each poker hand, but it feels like it's not consistent. It's too random to be as likable. Then we have the Cavendish. This is going to be a 3 times mult. It's simple, but there's no conditions. You get that ×3 mult. It kind of adds that fun with the Gros Michel that you have to have that expire first, and it shows this up. And then it's also, I think it's considered, yeah, it is considered common. So it is, once it's unlocked, you can find it relatively easy. It does have a 1 in 1,000 chance of expiring or being destroyed. So what if that? If I had never seen that happen, you could probably look that up and see someone who had that really bad luck. So you're just gonna stay in your jokers, and 3 times no other condition. It is pretty good. The card sharp, 3 times mult, but it has to be a repeated hand that's been played for that round. So. I'm gonna give it an A. I'm debating on A and B. I think if you like got vouchers, you got ways to add more hands to your rounds. It's knowing that you have to play at least one hand, and then if you like consistent playing the same hand anyways, it is gonna activate. It just can't activate on your first played hand. So that's like the downside of it. That you have to have a build that you can consistently play the same hand. It has to be really good hand score, like using planets to get it, and all that. So it's type 3. It's good. I'll give it an A. The red card, you have +3 for each booster pack that you skip. I played this and had some use with it, but I'm gonna give it an F. I think if it was a times mult, that might give it more oomph. A nice thing, if you get one of those booster packs that you can choose 2 cards, I believe you can choose one and skip the second one and it still counts. But a lot of times when you open booster packs, you're going to want what's in there and all that. So yeah, I don't go for that much and all that. And then next we have the Madness. I'm going to give this an A. I was very against it at first because I don't like the mechanic that destroys a random joker each small blind and big blind. It doesn't do it on the boss blind, and it gives you an extra ×0.5 mult. So if you go through one ante, you can get an extra ×1 mult, which can add up really quickly. One thing I heard, and this worked for me, is that if you play in higher stakes where there's eternal jokers that can't be destroyed, it is extremely helpful because it will still get an extra mult even if it can't destroy a joker. So if it doesn't require the joker to be destroyed, but if there are jokers that are destroyable, it will do so. So that's how I got my gold stake. So because I actually used a skip tag, which I don't use too often, but it was the first small blind. Got that and went, wait. But I did have to use the patience and kind of be very selective with the jokers I added. But if you have like all other eternal jokers, that thing is just going to grow. So that's why it's going to be an A. It can be very helpful. But I'm just playing like more lower stakes, more like vanilla. I don't use it. I mean, you have the square joker. You have to play exactly 4 cards, 4 chips. It is kind of small to grow. It can be very helpful, but I'm going to give it an F. I just don't like it as much. And yeah, I can see it being helpful, but yeah, it's gonna be enough for me. And same thing with Seance, which is really nice because it can create a spectral card, a random one. I think the randomness is kind of iffy for me. But also you have to play straight flush, which I don't play too often. So I think playing a hand that's really hard to consistently play. If you can get that build, then that's awesome, but I don't, so I'm going to give that an F. And then we have Riff Raff. It creates 2 random jokers, as long as you have room for them. I'm going to give that C. It is pretty fun. I think the downside, it is random, and it is common jokers. But it can be helpful, like you can sell jokers if you just don't want them. It's a good way to start a run, especially if you have like extra joker slots, depending on what deck you build and all that. So it's fun. I think I won the ceremonial knife challenge with it because I keep creating jokers that I can just feed to it. But it itself doesn't really do anything besides just creating jokers that may or may not help you out. Vampire, it adds 0.1 times molt for each scoring enhanced cards, but it then removes the card. I don't like to use it that often, but I'm gonna give it a C. It is a good molt growth. I think you have something like I'm gonna get to it very soon. The minus, like if you create a bunch of gold cards and then you're losing that gold enhancement and getting it again, that can pair really well. So I think I can see a lot of good synergy with it, but I'm gonna give it a C. And then shortcut. It lost rates, but you can skip ranks, so it doesn't have to be all sequential. I'm gonna give this a C because it kind of reminds me of the 4-finger in a way you can play hands a little bit easier. You still have to play 5 cards, but you don't have to have consecutively 5 cards to play a straight. And then we have hologram. You get 0.25 molt for each time a playing card is added to your deck. I haven't played it around with it too much. That is a really good growth for just adding cards. There is that downside of you don't want too many cards you don't use or want in your deck. I think, does that work? I think it has to work with something like DNA, because that's going to add cards. I think if you like use DNA, maybe have it copy with blueprint and all that, it can add more. So that's a really good molt, but it can be really iffy, especially if you don't want to change your deck much in terms of adding cards. I can see that being an issue. Next we have Vagabond. This has to be an F for me. It is nice that it creates tarot cards, but you have to have less than $4. But it can create a tarot card for each hand you play. I think with other jokers, just the shop itself, Purple Seals is a much better way to get tarot cards than taking up a joker slot and forcing you to have very low money. You won't get much with interest. You won't get any unless you have like card earning like in your hand by the end of the round. So I really don't like it forcing you to have very low money. Next we have Baron. Love the Baron. It pretty much keeps tracks each king as a steel card, so you get times 1.5 molt for kings. So if you really have the deck manipulation with kings, it is very awesome, especially since it synergizes with the mime a lot. You can use brainstorm, blueprint with it. So this has been a key for a lot of like high scoring crazy runs. Maybe if it's a little bit better, it would be cool, and just being even 1.5 molt. But if you can add stuff like ways to increase hand size, make sure you have all kings, it is very awesome. Cloud 9, you get $1 for each 9 in your full deck. So I think it doesn't matter where the 9s are. If you play them, then your hand, then your deck, you get that consistent money. But then you have to like add more 9s to your deck to take advantage. I'm gonna give it an F for me. Again, I'm kind of bad at really leaning into the money generator cards, but I feel this is just kind of too specific and it's kind of hard to sway that way, unless you can take really good advantage of it and have a bunch of 9s. And that, because $1 too, if it was maybe $2 per 9, then maybe that would be more worth it. I think it's such a low value for what it gives you. Then next we have the Rocket. It's pretty much just doubles your interest, and it increases. Maybe no, I'm thinking the other one. This gives you $1 but increases $2 per boss blind. So this is, I'm gonna give this a C. It does kind of give you low earnings at first, but if you get it early in your run, and then be a bunch of boss blinds, then yeah, that can be really awesome. But yeah, there's probably better ways to earn money, but it's not something to scoff at. And the obelisk, I don't deal with it that much. It gains 0.2 molt for consecutive hands played without playing most played poker hand. I think if you do play your most played poker hand, this doesn't change anything. I give it a D. I don't use that much. I kind of get it because I've always playing the same hand. I think because of my lack of experience with it, I do like that it's a times mult with growing on it, growth to it. But I think maybe my lack of experience with it is making me rank that one really low. Midas, that has to be an A for me. It does. No, actually, I'm going to give it a B. I just thought about it because I think it is good to get gold cards right away for money and all that. Sometimes you might just transition those into steel cards. With the vampire, I haven't played that build, but they can synergize so you can keep getting gold cards and having them add to the vampire and all that. Does that work in the same hand? I think if you run into Joker, then maybe you can turn them gold and then maybe they have to score first. I'm not as experienced with it. I think once you get to that point that, okay, I don't need to create any more gold cards, then it becomes kind of useless and phased out. So I think that's what's stopping it from being ranked A and all that. Then we have the Luchador. Sell it, it disables the boss blind. Can be very helpful. There is that voucher that can reroll the boss blind, or even that legendary Joker that disables it. I'm going to give it a C. It can come in very, very good handy. Like if you get a negative one, you're like, okay, I can just use this whenever I want. Such as it's that's the thing too, it disables, it doesn't change it like re-rolling. And like, because it's a skip tag as well, so it is nice that it can disable versus just changing it, especially if you hit a boss blind that is really devastating. Like hit it one like face downs or like debuffs and like, oh, debuff all face cards, and like I have all face cards and all that. So yeah, very helpful at times, but not the most crucial to have with the Joker, especially with scoring. Then we have Photograph. That's going to be an A. Your first played face card gets ×2, which is really awesome, especially if you build up your hands in terms of like with planet cards, so they're really high scoring in the first place. It just depends on, because I also learned about card placement. Like if, let's say you have one of these ones that get plus mult per diamonds or hearts, you want to like play low cards first, and you can move the face cards to the end, and then get the ×2 mult. But if you have something like the Hanging Chad, you want to make sure your face cards are first. If it's a glass card, like a glass face card first, and use that, it can really multiply your score. So it is common. Let me double check. Yeah, it is common, so it's kind of more easier to find. But without the Hanging Chad, you can do some crazy stuff. I can see why people really love the combination. Next, we have the gift card. And one value to sell, $1 sell value Jokers and consumables. So you have consumables you don't want to use, like maybe just having them so they don't show up in the shop again, or with Jokers. It is really good. And you can like sell them. I'm barely going to edge it out over C and put it as a B, because there's also the big advantages with it. Like this, that Tempest tarot cards that based the money gives you on the sell value of Joker. So if your Jokers are having higher sell values because of this, kind of like the same thing with the egg, then it adds to that and can get you more monies that way. There's that Joker card that can add more mult depending on the values of your held Jokers. But yeah, that B is a good spot to do it. And same thing with the Turtle Bean, because it gives you 5 hand size, but it decreases each round. Like I like the Gelato, it is helpful, like, especially like if you have like Kings and you have like Baron and all that, so you can really get score. You can get the cards you want. It is a shame that it decreases and then goes away, but in the pinch, it can be very helpful. Those extra cards in hand, depending on where you're at in your run, can be very helpful. So let's go. Erosion. It is a plus mult based on your deck size. So the smaller your deck, more value. It has to be below the starting size too. I'm gonna give it a D. I seen on YouTube video like Balatro University like did something crazy with this, but it feels like it's very specific. It's more like if you want to play around with it, but I don't see it being consistent Joker to have. So the next we have reserve parking. Each face card has a 1 in 2 chance to give $1. I'm gonna get the B. I feel like I underestimate the value generators, but that can be really good, especially like if you have retriggers like with the mime. So that's a good way to get money. But it's also 1 in 2 chance, but likely you're hitting that. And then the Melon rebate, $5 for a specific rank. This is one I'll have to give that one an A. Because if you have that deck manipulation, like if you have like all kings or mostly kings, you can like easily hit that. Because it is based on your deck build. So it's not going to tell you to discard a rank that you don't have anymore in your hand. And maybe lean more towards if you have a lot more kings, that's going to hit a lot more. And $5 for each discarded card, that is nothing to scoff at. That is really good, especially with, I keep repeating it, but they're going to come up. Brainstorm and Blueprint. So if you like stack copies of this with those jokers, you get a lot of money fast. So yeah, especially when you get to that great point where you have a lot of the same rank. This hits, boom, really good. And next, this was the other one I was thinking about. An extra $1 of interest for every $5 you have at the end of the round. So it just doubles your interest basically. And if you get those, what you want to call it, the vouchers, the money seed and money tree, it does build more on this too. So since I like it more than a rocket, I'm going to use that as my deciding factor to give that a B, because it can be really good. If you have like other things like Melon rebate or just how your decks build, you can earn a lot of money that way, like with gold cards and stuff like that. But this is also really good and easy too. And then we have Hallucination. There's 1 in 2 chance of giving you a tarot card for each booster pack you open. I'm gonna give it a C. Sometimes it doesn't hit, even though it has a 50-50 chance with 1 in 2. Or sometimes like if you don't have money and there's so many booster packs you can open, there's only 2 per shop. It does count if you get choose a skip tag that does give you boosters, so that's good too. Sometimes it happens, and then I think because it's a random tarot card, it does add to your consumables, so you can always hang on to it. But yeah, and then we have the fortune teller. Oops. Okay, we have the fortune teller. I'm going to give this a B. I feel like, even though it's just 1 molt per tarot card used, but if you have that good economy, you constantly using rerolls and tarot cards and stuff like that, it can definitely exceed a lot of these other ones. Especially like a lot of these molt cards that just kind of have the caps, like this one would suck at 23, or based on how many jokers you have, so you can only do so much. So if you know it's additional molt, just because it has that growth with tarot cards that are good, that you're going to use them anyways, I'm going to give it a B. And then we have Juggler, 1 hand size. It's nice, but and discard with the Drunkard. I'm going to give them D. I feel like they can help, but they don't do as much. If you get like a -1, I definitely like, oh, that's awesome, let's add it. But it's taking a Joker slot for a very small benefit. Yeah. And then Stone Joker. You get chips for each stone card in your deck, and I'm gonna have to give it an F. I just don't like stone cards that much. It's kind of nice if you get the other Stone Joker. That adds stone cards, and then they add chips unlimited. So yeah, I'm going to give that an F. And then we have the Golden Joker. I'm debating. I'm going to give it a C. It just gives you $4 at the end of each round. Doesn't do too much, but it's not too little. I would say if you got lucky and got negative one of these, and yeah, awesome, keep it there. That's just $4 extra. I think it's not as valuable as a Joker slot, but if in early game, it can help, especially if you're building your decks, your technology, and all that. So, and then we got the Lucky Cat, which I wasn't too big on first. You get 0.25 mult for every lucky card that activates, that triggers. I think if it happened to be really lucky and triggers the money in the mult, it still counts as 1 growth, but it's for each played card. I'm gonna give it an A. I haven't did the thing like you can synchronize that with Oops All Sixes to get even more luckier to have them trigger more often, but especially with like Hanging Chad or other things to re-trigger lucky cards. It is really awesome. I'm not sure how far I got that to grow times mult, but it can add up. You have to really reconsider the lucky cards because I wasn't playing them too often. But if you like having lucky cards that constantly trigger, yeah, it grows really fast. The baseball card, 1.5 mult for each uncommon Joker in your hand. I'm gonna give this a C because sometimes I don't have uncommon Jokers. Rare Jokers don't activate, like the Baron won't activate this one, so it has to be specifically an uncommon. I think if it was uncommon and rares, then I might bring that a little bit higher. But it's like some just useful Jokers that aren't uncommon that are extremely helpful, and I'm going to have those Jokers versus that one. And 1.5 mult times mult is really good, but yeah, I think that's why it's a little bit lower. And then the Bull. This one's fun in the sense that if you do build up a lot of money, you can get a good benefit from it. But I'm going to put a C. It's 2 chips for each $1, so it can be very helpful, but you're also just dealing with chips versus like mults or times mults. But chips, I think sometimes I underestimate the value of chip bonuses. So I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly, but we're getting there. The soda, what's this called? Diet Cola. Gives you a double tag for free when you sell it. I think that's a good thing. I don't use because double tag doubles any skip tag. I think the only one it doesn't really double is like a double. You can't double the double tag. I think for most it doubles most skip tags. It's helpful, like if you had the room for it, just buy it, sell it, and then if you see a skip tag you really like, I'm just gonna give it a C, and all that. So helpful, but very situational. But when it hits, it really hits. Like when you have that, like a negative Joker skip tag, I like to lean on that a lot. Then you have the trading card. You first discard it. If it's only one card, you destroy it and earn $3. I think this is more helpful for deck manipulation than just money. I don't think it can be copied. I think that's one thing with it. Let's see. And it's uncommon, but I'm going to give it a B just because it's helpful with deck manipulation and all that. It's kind of a pain, like if you don't have anything in your first hand and you can't like play discard or play hand. It kind of depends, but a lot of times you can take good advantage of it in the beginning. You get ring cards you don't want and getting some money along the way. But then it kind of like hits the wall where you can't make much use of it anymore. Then we have the flash card. You're getting 2 mults for each reroll. I'm going to throw it in with a C. Even though it can grow much better, like the tarot card, but I think rerolls definitely cost more along the way. I think if it had a higher growth, like maybe +4 for each reroll, then maybe I'd rank it higher. It's nice, but I don't lean on it too much. Then we have popcorn. 20 mult goes down 4 for each hand. It's pretty much like the same as ice cream, so I'm gonna rank it in B. It can be very helpful, like when you just need that good score bump. But it's a food item. It's a consumable that. Well, it's funny. Consider like it's a consumable Joker that loses its value and it goes away. So you can either like sell it or just have it go bye. Either way. Then we have 2 pants, a 2 pair, a spare trouser. You gain mult for every 2 pair played. I like the growth. I'm gonna give it a D though, because you have to play specifically a low scoring hand unless you like got a bunch of planets to really boost it up. You can take a really good advantage of it. So I think this is the fun of a challenge, making really good use of it. I think just with my playing habits, it's just like, it's gonna stay D. And then we have the Ancient Joker. He gives 1.5 mult for each score in hand of a specific suit that changes each round. One thing I really don't like about this is that it doesn't depend on your deck build. So it's going to change suit whether you have it or not. So most of the time you do have all the suits unless you get to the point where you're manipulating your deck, or if you're playing like the checkered deck, which only has is it spades and hearts, I think. So if it's like a club, you don't have any clubs, and like, well, that's useless. It's nice that if you have a flush 5 and then it's a suit that you have, but since it rotates on any suit versus what's in your deck, that's what's really killing me. Then that means, oh, it's just completely useless. Like if you don't have any clubs, it says clubs, then it's nice that it's on suits. I'm being really harsh on that, but it's so easy for it to be completely useless. So, and 0.5 mult, it is good, but still. And then we have the ramen, 2 times mult, great. It goes down 0.01 mult for each discard. For each card you discard, not just a discard. I'm gonna get the B. A ×2 mult is helpful. With no real condition, it does deteriorate. A lot of times, I even find myself if I'm discarding a lot, since it's such a tiny increment, it doesn't impact it too much, but it does get to that point. So, yeah, I think B is a definitely good spot for it, even though it kind of like deteriorates and all that. And then we have walkie-talkie, 10 chips and 4 mult for every 10 for played. That is nice. So they give the Scholar C. I'm going to also give it. It kind of acts the same way as the Scholar. I think Scholar is a bigger boost, but you can get more 10s and 4s easily to start. So it's nice, but I don't lean on it that much. And then we have Seltzer. I'm also going to throw out in a B. It re-triggers all cards in your hand for the next 10 hands. So it does go away, doesn't lessen the value like the popcorn and the ice cream or the ramen. So the other like wasteful consumables, whatever you want to call them for these types of jokers, it doesn't lose its value, it just goes away. So those re-triggers can be very helpful depending on what other jokers you have. So like the photograph or anything else in your played hand. So it can be pretty useful, just that it goes away pretty quickly. And next we have the castle. Okay, it's a chip growth and it's based on a specific suit. I'm trying to think, I'm not sure if it's based off your deck or if it's like the Ancient Joker. I haven't researched that, I don't use it that much. I remember knowing that at least with Ancient Joker. So I'm not sure that it's going to land on like a suit you don't have, then you can't take advantage of it. I'm going to give it a D. It's neat, you can have fun with it, but I'm going to give that a D for chips. And then base card, +5 mult for each face card scored. I'm going to give that a C. It does play pretty fun with the other face cards like this, so that way you don't have to specifically play face cards if you have Pareidolia, or if you can re-trigger them, or if they in any ways, whether it be jokers or red seals. It's really nice. But I'd give it a C because I don't see it lasting too long in my runs. Campfire, 0.25 mult for each card sold. Resets when boss blind is defeated. I think because it resets, even though it has a nice boost, I'm going to give it an F. I do like the times mult, but I think because it resets each boss blind, that's what's killing me with it. But if you could do something like crazy, like if you have, we'll get to him eventually, but you have like Perkio and you like using him to make a bunch of negative copies, and he stacks so much negative copies and sell them like crazy, then this can definitely be crazy as well. But yeah, I don't like how it resets. I don't take advantage of it, so I'll give it an F. A little harsh, but oh well. Then Golden Ticket, $4 for each card. I'm going to give that a B. It can be very good money generator, especially like if you use Midas or other ways to get a bunch of gold cards and playing a bunch of gold cards and maybe have ways to re-trigger them. Yep, and then that gets B. Yeah, I always want to give it an A. I think it's kind of situational too. Like if you're in a situation like, hey, I want to play high card because I have so many kings and I want to use my Baron. So if you scoring like playing, it depends if you're playing higher cards or not, more larger hands or not. So I think a B is a good spot. And then we have Mr. Bones. I have relied on him a lot. Basically, you have at least 25 the required trips for the round, and you don't win. He self-destructs and you get a pass. I'm gonna give it a C, because I think even though it can be extremely helpful, if you have things set up pretty well, you're not gonna need it, and he's just gonna take up a Joker slot. Like I said before with other Jokers, if you happen to get one that's negative, awesome, keep him as a lifeline. Sometimes you might not hit that threshold, but that's more like crazy endless, and you don't have the technology to really make it that far. But yeah, pretty good, but when it takes up a Joker slot, it can be really hard to justify keeping that Joker. And then we have Acrobat. 3 times Molt, but it has to be the final hand of the round. Because it's a 3 times Molt, I don't want to list it too bottom. It sucks that it has to be the last hand. So it's kind of like a lifeline as well. Kind of like with Dr. Bones, so it can even add to your score on your last hand. But yeah, I think there's other ways to get other jokers that add more to your score consistently every hand. And if you have to wait till your last hand, that's the downfall of these acrobats that are doing a little trick right down. I like the card art, but I think since it only works on one hand and it's like almost like a final last resort kind of thing, yeah, I'm gonna give it a C. And then we have Sock and Buskins, which retriggers all played face cards. I'm gonna give that a B. Yeah, especially to have Seltzer as a B. It can act just like that if you have all cards face cards. So especially when you have technology like the photograph or anything like that can, or if you have like lucky cards or glass cards. I don't think I mentioned that too often. Like with Joker, but retriggering glass cards can help you score a lot. So I think just having an easy retrigger, especially if you build, yeah, I think Sock and Buskins definitely deserve a B. Well, Swashbuckler, 1 Molt for sell value of each Joker. I'm gonna give that a C. You can't get too crazy with it because depending on it, but if you have stuff like gift card or like the egg that really goes up in value, then this can go up in value. Or if you get a bunch of negative Jokers, but since it's just Molt, if it had more like maybe +2, +3, +4 Molt per dollar of sell value, I can see that being better, but it hits that wall pretty quickly. And then we have Troubadour. Hand size. I've seen this being useful too. I'm gonna give it a C. I know there's like dissimilar Jokers that you put in a D slot. I think hand size can be very helpful when you have stuff like the Baron, or if you have ways to get money like the rebate. Having extra cards and having a bigger hand helps. I think the other ones I kind of ranked a little bit lower. I think even though you lose a hand, having more hand size I think can help out a lot. I think one of those, like, if I had this like a negative, I would keep it a lot more. Just like these, like even though there's a net minus hand, it can be very helpful. Then we have Certificate. That's a random playing card with a random seal. I can give that a C because sometimes you can get cards you just don't want. Might be able to manipulate them, or if you do get cards you want, like a face card, or you can use like strength to build it up. Or if it's like, oh, purple seal and just discard it for a tarot card anyways, or a blue card for a planet card. So I think because it forces adding more to your deck can be the issue. Not too useless, but it can be a little troublesome and all that. And then next we have the Smear Joker. That's a fun one because it means hearts and diamonds that counts in the same suit as well as spades and clubs. So I'm giving it a C because it can be very, very helpful maybe in the beginning of your run if you like to play a lot of flushes. But if you build your technology, it becomes a little less useless and it ends up just taking a slot that you don't need. Next is Throwback, which is 0.25 mold added for each gift blind. I'm gonna give this an A. I feel like it's very situational. I feel like if you're doing a speedrun achievement to unlock those jokers, it is critical. Like to get it your first blind. Let's see, is it rare? Okay, it's uncommon, so it's a little tricky to get. It is nice that it does count previous blinds before getting the card. I know some like the Lucky Cat or other ones won't grow unless you had them first. But if you like get this like on ante 5 or 6 and you still skipped a lot, it's gonna remember those skips. I don't use it that often. I think it's just fun. It helps out a lot with speed runs. So if you can like re-roll, maybe find a seed out there that has it in the first round. Just have fun, like skip and see what skip tags you get and all that, because it can get crazy. I think in that one run I did, I think I played on my personal time, but I had the invisible Joker that duplicated it, so I had like 2 of them or something like that, or maybe I saw that. It all run together, but this, even though I don't use it often, I probably rarely use it. It is very, very fun, so that's why I get to the A. Next is the Hanging Chad. The first played card it scores. Scoring card gets 2 additional triggers, so this is extremely useful. So I'm not really ranking these by each rank, but I'm gonna put next to the photograph because they pair really good. You get ×2 molt trigger 2 additional times, so I think that's like 8 molts or however you do the math. So this could be extremely useful, especially if you have cards like maybe a polychrome or a glass card is extremely useful as well. Like if you have these 2 cards, you had like a glass base card, it does add so much. It is very fun. Depending on your hand's cards, depending on the other jokers, you can really add up. So definitely love the Hanging Chad. And it's a common one too, so that's kind of nice. Let me get these 4 suited ones. They are different. I'm going to use my little cheat sheet. Rough gem, $1 per diamond scored. Let's see. If you have like a technology, you have them re-triggered a lot or double this up, you can get a lot more money. But $1, if it was maybe $2, maybe that'd be a little bit more of a higher rank. And we have, give this a B, the Bloodstone. I do like it. I think a lot of times I play with a checkered deck, and it does have a lot of hearts in it. 1.5 times molt for each scored card, but it has a 1 in 2 chance, so it doesn't trigger. If you happen to have it's all 6s, which is coming up soon, you can guarantee that. Have re-triggers, you can boost it up even more. I do find that odds are pretty good, so I do find this triggering a lot, even if it's just 1 to 2 chance. And next we have the Arrowhead, 50 chips for each spade. I'm gonna give these a B because we had like other cards that are kind of similar, like to add chips, or like these ones that add molt. Same thing, this one does clubs, the Onyx Agate, whatever. I think this is a little bit better. It kind of depends. I would say I like the Bloodstone the most out of these 3, but I think this is better than the other one, the diamond one. Then we have the Glass Joker. This one's kind of cool. I don't see come up that often. I do tend to play more glass cards. Sometimes they smash, sometimes they don't. But this one adds 0.75 for every one that's destroyed. I'm thinking I'm gonna give it a B. I'm very inexperienced with that one, so I don't use it, but it can be very good. It just hasn't really came up in my runs, but 0.75 times mold is really good. Some of the glass cards may not break as easy. I get the art. I think it's 1 in 4. That is kind of useful, but it's kind of hard to get that consistent growth and get good consistent benefit compared to other jokers. But it's fun. I just haven't had my fun with it as much. Showman. I know people like this a lot because it allows you to like buy more than one joker. But also you can have other planet and tarot cards to show up. So especially if you have like those merchant vouchers, it can be a little headache. I'm gonna give it a C. I rarely use the Showman. I can't see the benefit. Like it can add like blueprints or all that. Let's keep going. The Flower Pot. it's a 3 times molt, but you have to have a card in each suit. So I'm just gonna give it an F for frustrating. I did make use of it before, like in early runs, like maybe you can do like a full house or straight, or even 2 pair and just have the luck of having different suits. But I think it's because it has such a hard criteria to get that 3 mult. I think that's why it's so frustrating for me, especially if you go in certain directions and like, again, with some decks like the checker deck, I think because I play that one a lot, like, oh, I'm not going to make any use for this. So I think that's why an F. It is good to have a 3 times mult, but I think just because the criteria makes it a headache. And then we got a lovely, lovely blueprint. Definitely an A. It triggers, copies the Joker to the right of it. It can stack with other blueprints and even stack with Brainstorm. Very awesome. You can do some crazy stuff I can use with Burglar to get a lot more hands, with the Mime to activate, with stuff to get a lot of money. You can do a lot of crazy stuff with Blueprint and with Brainstorm. Very awesome card. You don't need me to tell you how great it is. Next we have the Wee Joker. It's a pin to luck. You get 8 chips for every 2 played. So specific. I think people really like the challenge of getting advantage of it, but I don't like it, so it gets an F for me. Next is Mary Andy. I haven't used this one too much. I think like if you have the technology where you want to discard a lot, having 3 extra discards, you do lose a hand size, but like if you have Balance Rebate and you have the deck build, I'm gonna give it a C. It definitely seems to be very useful, but something I haven't really took advantage of. Oops, all 6s, so it increases probability just by an increment. But if it's like 1 2, it's going to make a guarantee. But if it's like 1 to 4, it's going to be 2 to 4. So it can do like 25% to a 50% chance. Especially if you have lucky cards and you're trying to grow the lucky cat, it is very awesome. Its physical utility doesn't. I'm gonna give it a B. Like if you can like copy it too, that can be helpful too. Like if you're playing lucky cards and all that, or if you're like playing glass cards you want to break for whatever reason, like if you had the glass Joker. I just haven't had a chance to really use it that much, but it is really awesome. And then we have the Idol. There's 2 mult for every card scored from a specific rank or suit, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome, but it can take a lot of work to get there. It can pay off. Like if you have like, I'm playing flush 5s, which is a high scoring hand anyways, and you get a bunch of times 2 mult. Then this gets really crazy, but then you had pretty much the same card rank and suit for the hit, and it's one of those things like it's based off your card build. So if you have like, let's see, King of Hearts, and it's like most of your deck, like 20 out of 25 of your deck with King of Hearts is going to hit that more often, or at least maybe even guaranteed depending where you're at. I'm gonna give it a B. It can take a lot of work, but it can really pay off. I don't use it too often, but I definitely can acknowledge its use. And Scene Double. Whenever a scoring hand has a club in any other suit, you get a 2 times mult. Maybe if it was a 3 times, I would rank it a little bit better. It's not too hard to meet that criteria. But again, like you're playing flashes or flash 5s, but you're playing 4 of a kind, and you have different suits. It can be helpful. I'm gonna give it a C. There's other cards that can do similar things and all that, so maybe a B. But I feel like if you're going in certain directions with your deck, the club in another suit requirement does make it a little tough. The Matador. $8 you get for every time the boss blinds triggers. I think it also depends on the boss blind. I think like if you're playing a card that's deep, like if Hearts are debuff and you play Hearts, then you get $8. But I think only because you can use it on the boss blind. And you use some money, and there's other ways to easily get more money too. I'm gonna give it an F. Yeah, I definitely acknowledge its use, but I'm gonna give it an F. And then we have Hit the Road, which gives you 0.5 mult for every jack discarded for each round. So it does reset. It can be pain because a lot of times I like to lean on kings and queens for face cards. And that it resets. I'm still going to give it a B because if you had like good technology and all that, you can take good advantage of it. Like you have a lot of jacks and a lot of kings, or you can play like full houses, flush houses, depending on it. You can definitely, and a lot of discards. Then yeah, that would be fun if you did have like a build based on jacks versus like the Baron. But yeah, it is because the resets can be a little frustrating. But you can get that reliable technology, but then it can kind of hit the wall. And next we have these ones. These kind of fun to unlock because you got to beat it, run without playing a certain card. It's times mult. It is 2 for paying a player, 3 for 3 of kind, 4 for 4. So these will give you times mult. I might throw them all into B because they're handy, but it's kind of like a flat mult. It does play like the other ones too, that if you, it doesn't mean that your hand has to be that specific hand, but as long as if you have a pair. So let's say you had all 3 of these, like the duo, the trio, and the family, and you play 4 of a kind, it's still going to activate the duo and the trio. So you're going to get times 2, times 3, times 4 for playing the 4 of a kind. So they are kind of rare, so you may not get the opportunity. But that means like you can play more than the pair and this will still activate. So that's kind of helpful with them. Showman down here, -2 hand size for 250 chips. I'm going to get that a C. I don't like the much smaller hand size. If you did have other things like vouchers or anything to kind of cancel that out, the chip bonus is really good. Let me check. It is rare. I know like with Plasma Deck that can be really huge in the beginning as well if you can get it. I feel like the small hand size can be a headache as well, but you can do cool stuff with the Stuntman. But yeah. And then the Invisible Joker. I'm near the A after 2 rounds, I believe. Yeah, 2 rounds you can sell it and duplicate it. It is annoying that it's a random Joker, but that's how the game works. But if you can, you might have to sell cards to make sure it hits what you wanted to hit. And it's awesome if it's like, especially these other ones in Ace tier, if it duplicates. That's, I think the rules is like, I don't think it copies the unique characteristics, and like if it was foil or polychrome or negative, or maybe it's just negative, so it doesn't completely copy the card, but extremely useful when we have additional. And then of course Brainstorm, you have there too. I think Brainstorm as well as Blueprint kind of made me learn about Joker placements. You want to kind of, because this one it copies the Joker on the far left, and this one copies Joker to the right of it. So you really want to keep these together, keep track of that. Like, oh, I'm going to copy Burglar at first, and then change it so you can maybe copy the Mime or the Baron. So it does a lot of fun that you have to keep track of your Jokers to take advantage of the copy ability and all that. And the next, Satellite. I know that people like this one. I'm gonna give it an F. It gives you $1 for each different planet card you used in the run. So let's hit that wall, but you know, like if you eventually hit 9 planet cards, it can be a consistent $9. So that can be helpful. Maybe if you had a negative, I might be more inclined. Because a lot of times, like, it can be easy to like, oh, I want to play that, use that planet card just to make sure I use each one. So I did find that use. You know what? I won't be so mean. I'm going to give that a D. I'm going to give it a D just because if you did have it as a negative, it'd be great to have around. So I think just because of my playstyle, I might just get a couple bucks from it. And taking Joker slot is kind of a headache too. But yeah, and then we're kind of winding down. Queen, 13 added mult for each queen in your hand. I'm going to go to B. It is plus mult, but can really add up, especially if you get larger hand size, a bunch of queens, and all that. And the mine activates, it triggers it too. just because it's like a lower version, lesser version of the Baron. I'm gonna give it a B. And then we have a driver's license. I'm gonna give that an A. It's a 3 times molt, but you have to have at least 16 enhanced cards. So the downside, it is pretty much useless until you reach that threshold, which you're probably going to do anyways. You're gonna be very motivated to get enhanced cards and all that. So an easy 3 times molt, just like the Cavendish. That's what I'm putting up there. Yeah, I think that sounds fair. And then we have the Cardomancer. I'm going to give that a B. Because give the tarot card at the start of each round, each blind. It is helpful too, like if you can use Blueprint or Brainstorm, or if you have an additional copy, that extra consumable slot too. So you can get consistent. It is random, but you can get consistent tarot cards. I think that's one of the more better ways to get tarot cards consistently, besides just going through the shop. So I'll give that a B. Same thing with the Astronomer. It does mean any planning card in the shop, including the booster packs, be free. So you can just like add a lot of planning cards. You can like take them and sell them to the one you don't want to use and all that. So the downside is that it doesn't score or really impact much, but it can impact, I can score overall by getting planet cards. So yeah, pretty awesome. If it was negative, then it definitely good to have. And we're winding down. We have Burnt Joker. It upgrades the level of the first CS card at hand. So it's kind of like a free planet card per round. I'm going to give it a B. I have seen cool stuff, like if you can like stack with the Blueprint or Brainstorm, it can activate 3 and all that. So it can be very situational, like if you don't have that opportunity to really discard what you want. But if you're like really leaning to a high card, like really going crazy with it, then that helps get even crazier with it. Then we have the Bootstrap. It's 2 molt for every $5 you have, so it does work similar to the Bull. Instead of chips, it's molt. It is kind of a small increment for how much you have to save up. And sometimes I'm just spending money to the point where I don't want to spend because I don't want to lose out on interest, so I still kind of keep a lower amount. But if you have like crazy technology to like increase your money, because it is your active amount you have. So I'm going to get the same ranking as the Bull, so I'm going to give it a C. And then we have the Legendary Jokers. So let's go through this. Canio. It gives you 1 times molt for a face card that is destroyed. It is really nice, but also kind of hard to pull off. I think the only way you can do that with the glass cards here, you have to have glass face cards and then have them break. And you can do stuff like oops all 6s or send them break. I'm gonna see. I really like the molt, but I feel like destroying face cards can. I think also like if you use a trading card, I think that might be a good way to destroy face cards. Or like Hangman. I think there's other ways. Beyond destroying face cards, where they're like, I'm still gonna keep it at C. I think other methods to destroy face cards, whether it be glass or use the Hangman. Yeah, I know a lot of people like these Jokers and all that, but I think that's a trouble. Then we have Trouble-A, if I'm saying that right. 2 times for each king and queen play gives you 2 times molt. Definitely have to give that an A. Like you're playing Flash 5. I feel like it's a because Idol. I think was that 2. Let me double check that real quick. I think the Idol, it's like this is pretty much a more consistent Idol. Because it has a face card, you don't have to worry about having crazy deck manipulation. So it's definitely like a much better version of the Idol. So it definitely deserves the A spot. And then this might be controversial, but you have Yorick. You get 1 times molt for every 23 cards you discard. I think you have to have it first. I don't think it counts your past discard. I'm gonna give that an F. Like giving the Legendary Joker an F might be the most controversial thing. I just maybe don't have the patience and all that. And yeah, let's wrap it up. Chicolet disables the boss blind. It was cool if you could get this negative. I think you don't way you can get negative by using the spectacle ectoplasm. I know it was a bug. I'm not sure if it's still there, by the way that like if you stack these, like you have duplicates of them, then they kind of reverse the boss effect. Like this one that would add to your hand size. I forget what boss bind is. Like instead of your negative hand size, it adds more, and that changes permanent. So I'm gonna give that a B. I'm not quite sure if they ever did anything with that bug or you take advantage of that, but it can be very useful, but doesn't impact scoring too much unless you count like, hey, if you permanently increase your hand size for future rounds. So I haven't been caught up to date with that. And then we have Perkio. You've a negative random consumable. That has to go in the A. And I seen that trick of if you happen to have the spectral card cryptid, or other ones too, and if you have like blueprint and that you can like copy it, so maybe get 3, depending on what you have, even more. So you can add so many consumables. Those negative cards do have a good sell value as well as you can sell them or use them. Like I've seen people use cryptid, like stack a bunch of negative ones and then use them for the to go nanif and get like this crazy high score. But that will do it. So I think this is my good definitive ranking. I want to do more Balatro ranking videos. Kind of simple, kind of long. Other ones will be much shorter, but this is all 150 jokers. It should be, according to a tier maker list I found online, which I'll put a link to that so you can use the same one. This is once you can kind of find that like, oh, just like commons or rares and all that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of my selection, which ones you disagree with, agree with, and all that. But hopefully maybe learn some things. I'm just kind of like spouting out my knowledge of the game. But that will do it for this video. So thanks for tuning in. Let me know in the comments whether to check out and play. I'm going to do a couple of these, but I do a lot of like gaming on Twitch and Let's Play style uploads on YouTube. So appreciate checking it out. So y'all take care and have a great rest of your day. Bye.